Namaskaram. On behalf of the Lasakalpa Foundation, I welcome you to our first digital endeavor Back to Basics. The seed of this series was sown last year when the chaos that the pandemic threw us in also showed us that we dancers will not stop doing what we always do no matter what. What I had planned for a long time to organize some seminars, conferences, the topics that I had wanted a discussion to happen on, it suddenly seemed a much easier possibility because we got accustomed to these digital discussions. I've always felt that in a young Kuchipudi practitioner's mind, there are numerous questions unanswered about various aspects of the art form. And some of those doubts, even when they are very basic, just remain hanging in there, which is why we thought back to basics. We begin the first episode, Dance Through Words, with Dr. Anupama Kailash. Her knowledge of the written word never ceases to amaze me. And it's more important to me that she has gained a lot of wisdom through that knowledge. Her sensibilities are very, very true to how language, culture, arts evolve together and meshed. So without much delay, let's invite her. Please remember to ask questions, whatever they may be, however they may be, so long as it can be related to hashtag Kuchipudi, hashtag Telugu, hashtag literature or hashtag poetry, please ask. I will now invite Anupama. Hello, Anupama.
Hello, can you see me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello, Katyani.
Hello, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Absolutely my pleasure. I love talking about literature.
Yes.
I talk however much you want me to talk about literature.
Please,
my favorite
please
topic.
Go ahead. Yes, yes, exactly. And because we are so entwined to the word, yes. Our art forms, so I thought we should begin with this rather than go into it later.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So, they say when in doubt, refer to Alice in Wonderland. So we'll begin at the beginning. And we'll begin with where Telugu literature started. When did this start?
So we have references to Telugu language right from the 1st century, actually, because even during the time of the Satavahanas, there is a very clear reference to the Telugu language. But up till the 4th century to the 6th century, the Telugu words that we hear of are mentioned in the Prakrits. Rather than, there is not much influence of the Sanskrit language on it as of then. So if we look at, right from the time of the Renati Cholas, there are inscriptions and there are many places where the Telugu language is referred to. Like, for example, in the 848 AD, you have the, the oral traditions. These are the pre-Nannaya, the pre-classical Telugu traditions. So you have the Addanki inscription of Gunaga Vijayaditya. So in this, it mentions a verse in Telugu, which is said to be in the Taravozu meter. So this, cultural historians like Dr. Arudra, they mentioned that the Taravozu is actually the nascent form of the Dvipada. That's what became the Dvipada later. So you can trace it right back, till then. And then, of course, you have the Andhra Bhasha. The word was first mentioned in the Nadampudi inscription of 1053 AD. So this is in the East Godavari district. So the evolution of language is always, it's a very complex, process. So you have the Sanskrit influences, you have the Prakrits, you have the, Paishachis, you have the colloquial terms, and Telugu has also had the, the common, like Bhil, like Gond, like Kui. So all these influences are there. So right up to the 4th or even the 6th century, you can say that you had mention of the Telugu language, but primarily through Prakrit texts. By the time we came to the 10th century, 6th to 7th century, the kings preferred highly classical Telugu. So that's when the Sanskrit based Telugu became very prominent. And that is why by the time we come to the Eastern Chalukyas, the great Mahabharata happened with Nannaya. So, that's the basic place where it started.
Yeah. So, like, few questions, because I know some really young kids are also here. They want to know what all this is about. So, when we say Sanskrit and Prakrit, what are the just one line,
So, the languages based on Sanskrit is those who are, those languages which have extensive Sanskrit influence are, those languages which are considered to be, it's supposed to be Margi or classical literature. And those which come from more colloquial, usages are the Prakrit texts. So even Sanskrit had its own Prakrit. So these are the Riti ideas, that is, the regional influences of the language. Like we know the Telugu script comes from the Brahmi script actually. So, the Prakrits, if you see the translations also of Kalidasa or any of the other Sanskrit poets, there will be the Prakrit version and there will be the Sanskrit version, depending on which character is speaking. So those are more the regional ideas, regional dialects.
So instead of saying that they were two separate, they were together being spoken simultaneously.
Simultaneously. See, that is the beauty. That is the beauty of our whole literary system, is that I don't much like to use the word Margi Desi, because Margi Desi and Natyadharmi and Lokadharmi are the most brilliantly misunderstood words in the gamut of, dance terminology. So basically, let's just say those which are highly Sanskrit in nature and those which, are highly indigenous in nature. So these are the two distinctions actually. And it is interesting that these two streams always went simultaneously.
Together.
In any language tradition. You have the Desi, works that were happening at the same time as the classical works that were happening. And it stands good for Telugu literature also.
So the first work, the written proper work that we come across in Telugu, can we safely call it is the translation of Mahabharata, or some say
the first classical work based on a highly Sanskritized classical Margi language of Telugu is definitely the Mahabharata by Nannaya. So we know that he did 2.5 parvas only, and he left the third parva incomplete. Later, when Tikkanna came, he completed 18, chapters of it. And then when Erranna came in the 14th century, that's when he finished the third and then he completed whatever was left. So with this starts the classical age of Telugu literature, with the Kavitrayam as they are called. So Nannaya, Tikkanna and Errapragada, or Erranna as he was known. This starts off the era of the Kavya literature, Itihasa literature of Telugu, which of course was going to go later into the grandeur of the Prabandha age,
Yeah. So around Nannaya's time, do we find anything else that's happening with respect to Telugu, or is it only later that it has come up?
A little post Nannaya, because what happened was, see, there is also the Desi stream which is going simultaneously.
Yes.
So on one side you have the classical works happening, then on one side you have the redefined versions of Veerashaiva and Vaishnavism, which was again coming back after the Buddhist period became a lull. So during this time, then you have, Basava Puranam, and all these are the Desi texts which talk about the Veerashaiva literature. So this was all happening simultaneously. almost around the same time. So that's why when we look at Telugu literature, or I think any literature, basically we have to take three things into consideration. We have to look at it from the point of view of the royal dynasties, from the point of view of the major poets, and from the point of view of genres. So when we look at the history of Telugu literature as recorded, it is the Eastern Chalukyas. Of course, the Satavahanas were the earliest, but the Eastern Chalukyas, then the Reddy kings, then the period of the Vijayanagara Empire, and then the shift to Tanjore with the Nayaka kings. So that is the primary stages in the evolution of the literary scheme.
So where do we come across performing art related literature? All of this literature was not meant to be performed,
Not
right?
really.
It was written
Yes.
for its sake. So where
Exactly.
does
Exactly. So performing art literature again comes into the category of the Desi literature forms primarily. Now, in this, we have to take two things again into consideration. One is when we talk about the female performing traditions or the female dance traditions, like the Devadasi system or the Natuvamela traditions, the content for that came through the context. Because if the context is the temple and the ritual, then the kind of pieces they performed also depended on that particular ritual. So if you have to do a Melukolpu, then you have the Melukolpu literature. If you have to do, a Hecharika, then you have a Hecharika, then you have a Lali, then you have a Mangala Harati, then you have a... So this genre is different. In the court tradition, another kind of a genre developed where, you eulogize the king and then you say, grand things about him. So that's how the Shabdam, the Salam Darbu came. And you're saying Raja, Dhiraja, Veera Pratapa, Sri Krishna Raya, Bhupa, and things like that. So, and then you have the, the formal structural scheme, like the Varnam was there. And then you have the more intimate chamber concert system, where you had the Padams and the Javalis and the Shloka Abhinaya. So what I'm trying to say is that the milieu or the context set the content at that point of time. Similarly with Kuchipudi also. Kuchipudi being a male theatrical Bhagavata tradition, it is that which obviously defined the context for them. Which is why the stories of Krishna, because it's primarily a Vaishnava based tradition, so which is why two major works evolved, the Bhama Kalapam and the Gola Kalapam, which were telling you the philosophy, a certain structural philosophy, through using these characters from the, Itihasas, like Satyabhama, like Sri Krishna. So the Bhagavata traditions obviously culled from Harikatha, from Yakshagana literature, and from these formats which are performative in nature, from the Ata Bhagavatam formats. So definitely that's the point of take off rather.
Yeah. So where do we find Yakshagana as a literary genre? Where does it begin?
So
because I'll just elaborate why I'm asking this question, because we grew up to hear one idea of Yakshagana, then we realize that, oh my god, there is another Yakshagana there, and then there's a Yakshagana in literature which has never been performed to actually. So it's what is then Yakshulaganamu, Yakshaganamu, is that the definition, or is there some other literary format to it which will qualify a work to be a Yakshagana?
Yeah. So before we just go into Yakshaganam, I just wanted to, just mention one or two things about the Kalapams. See, if you see Kalapam, the word actually does not have a textual reference.
Doesn't.
It does not. But when you say Kalapam, and especially when you talk about Bhama Kalapam, lots of scholars have opined that it comes from an Uparupakam format. The smaller dramas. So you have Rupakams, which are the bigger dramas mentioned in the Nat Shastra. But there are smaller, with a smaller storyline, there are Uparupakas which are mentioned in, Bhava Prakasham and Shringara Prakasham of Bhoja and such texts. So these Uparupakas, there is an Uparupakam called Sri Gaditam. So this has certain qualities which it specifies. It says the heroine of the form should be a Kulangana, she should be a pious woman like Lakshmi. And who is the beloved of Sri Mahavishnu? And who is the enemy of demons? This woman must describe the form, the beauty and the valor of her Lord to her Saki.
Wow.
And she must experience deep pain of separation in several states like that of Vipralabdha and so on. Describing her condition, she must sing a variety of songs containing different moods and emotions. Therefore, the Gad or the Vat uttered by the consort of Lord Sri is termed Sri Gaditam.
Oh.
So, it is very apt to conclude that maybe the Bhamakalapam format actually evolved from the Sri Gaditam. But when you look at the Gola Kalapam, it does not really fit this aspect.
Yes.
So, this may be purely conjecture on my part, but when you look at the definition of the word Kalapam itself, in Amarakosha, or if you look at it, how Apte has described it, or how Monier Williams has described it in different dictionaries, Kalapa has multiple meanings. It's called an ornament is a Kalapa, a zone is a Kalapa, a string of bells worn by a woman on the waist is a Kalapa. A peacock plume is a Kalapa. A quiver is Kalapa. Moon is Kalapa. Now, there is one thing that caught my attention here, which Apte, Monier Williams, and several others have mentioned. They said a collection of different things, putting together different things in a totality, which is a collection of different things. Now, I think that is where there is a distinction between the Kalapam and the Yakshaganam. That is where I find the distinction, because Kalapam has minimal characters. It is deeply indicative of a certain philosophical idea.
Yes.
Brought out through introspection, through dialogue, through many modes, in which the story is not really important, but it's the development of the idea that is important there. And if you look at Bhamakalapam and Gola-Kalapam, I have always felt that they are actually two sides of the same coin. Because from Bhamakalapam is from the individual to the universal. She gets over all this thing and goes to the universal. Gola-Kalapam is from the universal to the individual. It's like a reverse aspect of the same idea. It starts with creation and all of that. And then that whole essence, the Golabhama is trying to tell the Brahmin about that whole thing. So exposition of a certain philosophy and a certain idea is what distinguishes the Kalapam from the Yakshaganam. Because for the Yakshaganam, the plot, the story, the characters, the drama component, that is what is more important.
Yes.
The unfolding of the plot.
Yes.
So you asked me about the, the Yakshaganam, what could be its origins?
Yes.
So there are many, stories and many legends connected to the evolution of Yakshaganam or Yakshulaganam or Jakkulaganam, as it was called. So, see, this is where it's very interesting, because the common cultures, the people's cultures, they meet literature, in this kind of, it's an intersection of ideas. So the Yakshaganam has been traced back to the Jakkula tribes who lived on the hills and who used to come down to the plains and present small dramas. Now, similarly, you have the Kurava tribes also. They were called the Kuravulu. That's where the word Kuravanji came from. Anji means step. So the step or the movement of the Kauravas. Now, these are the two sources that have been traced, and there are umpteen references which I have heard from scholars also about how during the Shivaratri Jataras, these tribes will come down, and they will perform around these Mailarudeva temples. And they used to perform what is called Golla Sambhashanalu.
Oh.
Probably the nascent form of how Golla Kalapam evolved. So it is, the Bhagavata traditions definitely come from the people. It comes from the idea, and then the tribal hero, the tribal stories, then merged with Itihasa and Purana. And then slowly, the idea started taking a more, classicalized route, because Dr. Raghavan speaks about a very interesting, episode actually, where he's talking about how the tribal aspect and how this repartee between people, the way they talk, all the colloquialisms are all maintained, but the characters are Lakshmi and Saraswati. So he very interestingly talks about this. And he says, for example, he says, they are mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, as per, legend, because, Lakshmi, Brahma is supposed to be the son of Vishnu. So they have this argument, and, that mother-in-law, daughter-in-law quarrel is going on between Saraswati and Lakshmi. So I found that very interesting. That, how the Puranic ideas, how they merge with the local way of talking. And, she says, you can go. And it's also very, because at that time, the poets had to go and they had to, recite their verses for patronage. So the verse clearly says, hey, Saraswati, come on, go to these courts and go and, show your, your power in front of all the unworthy patrons. So Lakshmi is saying that.
Wow.
And then Saraswati replies saying that, okay, now you go from house to house making all unworthy people rich.
Wow. Wow. So, they are taking a fight between two normal human beings and elevating it with those nuances of the actual people that are
And
Lakshmi.
There are multiple examples like this we can find even in Prahalada, in many places, where commonalities, common things, social structures, systems, medicines, places, geography, all these features very prominently as a part of the story. Even though the story is a legend, it's Purana. But everything connected to the regional, the indigenous cultures of the people feature in the Yakshagana. That is the beauty of, people's literature, that kind of thing. So these are this is basically how Yakshagana evolved. And there are certain, what's interesting about the Yakshaganam is that, there are the Shravya Yakshaganams, that is those which are meant only to be heard. Then you have the Drushya, that is those which are performed, those are visual. And then you have a combination of both. So as per records, the Saubhari Charitam of Proluganti Chinnashauri is supposed to have been the first Yakshaganam, but that's unavailable to us. So the first actual printed Yakshaganam is that Sugriva Vijayam of Kandukuri Rudrakavi. So that is the first printed one that we actually find, and it's more of a Shravya Yakshaganam than a Drushya. And what is interesting about Yakshaganam is that it is both. The literary format is also called a Yakshaganam. The performance structure is also called a Yakshaganam. Both are called Yakshaganam. So it is obvious that, this text of the libretto is purely meant to be performed. It's not meant to be just read like you would read a Itihasa.
Yeah.
It's meant to be performed. So this is what is interesting. And of course, Yakshaganam has its own distinct features because it has certain literary meters and formats.
It does.
That have to occur in a Yakshaganam. Oh yes, it does.
So does a Kalapam have such requirements of meters?
Definitely. See, the thing is that structurally, if you look at the literary structure, there is actually no difference between any Bhagavata text and any other Bhagavata text.
So when they say Bhamakalapam is also Yakshaganam, it is actually true in a way.
It is, yeah, but the thing is, it's like saying that, it's that same distinction that you have between Padam, Sankirtana and Kriti and things like that. Structurally, there is no difference. All the literary formats that occur in the Yakshaganam occur in the Kalapam also. So there are certain prescribed literary formats that occur in all these kinds of theatrical dramas. Like you must have the Daruvus, you must have, several meters like the Dvipada, you will have, Kanda Padyams, you will have Sisa Padyams, you will have the Vritta Padyams, which are more classical, which are later included more and more because of the classicalization of the Yakshaganas. So you will have Utpalamala, Champakamala, all these Vritta Padyams. Then you have the Kandam, then the Sisam, and then you have typical formats which are special to Yakshagana, like the Ela, the Ardhachandrikas, the Reku, the Ragada. These are all Chandasas. They are all grammatical, metrical systems. Dvipada, which are compulsorily there in Yakshagana works. But over the years, with the refinement and the classicalization of the Kuchipudi Yakshaganam, they adopted less and less of the Desi patterns and more of the classical formats. So which is why, in fact, many of them also say that what they present as Kuchipudi Yakshaganam today is Yakshagana Natakam. Because it's more a Natakam format. You have formal Padyams, you have the Utpalamalas, Champakamalas, and this kind of course, Kanta Padyams, Sisa Padyams are there. It was there in Potana's Bhagavatam also. The Sisa Padyam influenced many poets later.
Yeah.
But you do not have the Reku, Ragada and these typical, Desi formats which are there in the Desi Yakshaganams. You don't find them in the Kuchipudi Yakshaganams. But you find a host of other literary meters. Like, for example, Panchachamaram. The problem is today, we don't know about all these things and we are not performing them.
Yes.
Neither in the texts are we, culling them. We're not even trying to find them in the texts.
Yes.
Like, and these are not like formats only specific to the Kalapams. Like you have Jata, Tavi, Galat, Jala, Pravaha, Vitasthale, the famous Ravana Stotram, that's Panchachamaram.
Absolutely.
So you have a very similar piece which Satyabhama also says.
Oh.
In Bhama Kalapam, she says, Patani raututi kunan mitharinaina kunnalan kathariga amarchibal gatai tambuga janul. So the takita meter occurs there. Bhala yatanchu vachi krura marude. So it is a dushana of Madana, of Madmandha. These kind of pieces we are not exploring.
In
we are fixated on some very few restricted ideas. That is the problem. That's what's happening.
But don't you think that these are what actually define Telugu beauty? Yeah, you're fine.
I think you just froze. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you think that these are what actually define the beauty of Telugu literature and what it holds, what it can offer to us as performance?
Absolutely. See, I remember, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, Pasumarthi Keshav Prasad Garu. But I remember once having a discussion with him, when he was talking about the Sahitya Academy and Sangeet Natak Academy publication of the Bhama Kalapam text. Now, if you look at the Parijatam text which came in Tanjore, in Tanjore, or even the Parijatam text which came later, post Annamacharya of Vengamamba and others also, every Daruvu will be preceded by a Dvipada, an introductory Dvipada of the character. But I'm sure Bhama Kalapam also would have. There were sections like this. But we don't have it. We don't find them. And, from the 3-day performance to a 1-day performance to a half an hour performance. And today we've come to the state where just Bhamane, Satya Bhamane is considered Bhama Kalapam.
Exactly. I know.
So, that's the thing. We need to address some of these. I think, especially the next generation of dancers need to address this.
Absolutely. So this is the Bhagavata literature, the performing arts, or even just literature traditions. What about the other things that have come into Kuchipudi now, or maybe I don't know when?
Yes.
The whole, the Bhagyakaras and the Sang literature. What about that?
So, see, there have been different phases, as we have seen even in the Yakshagana systems, like it all started because, the Yakshagana idea can be traced even to the 12th, 13th century in the Andhra Desha. Then it shifted to the Nayaka courts of Tanjavur, then to the Maratha rulers, the Bhosle kings. We know that, Vijay Raghava Nayaka and others, they composed almost 33 Yakshaganams.
Wow.
Shahaji composed 23 Yakshaganams.
Wow.
And other than that, you have Giriraja Kavi and so many other poets also have composed innumerable Yakshaganams. Now, lot of this content is available.
It is.
And it is Telugu literature. So if we get this out of our mind that, we are now Tamil Nadu, we are Andhra, we are Karnataka, and we are something else, we have to understand that this is all Telugu literature. There was a point when Telugus were ruling almost the entire southern India. And Telugu was the language of literature and performing art for several centuries. Now, a lot of this literature is available to us, but very few have actually tapped into it or are tapping into it. Like maybe one Matrubhuta Kavi has been explored by people like Uma Aunty and others. Parallel Parijatam story of Satyabhama and Krishna. But other than that, you don't really find much happening. And what has happened is, Kuchipudi has had a history of immense change. So, from the Kalapam to the Yakshaganam, and then we come to the solo tradition. Now, the solo tradition being quintessentially a female-centric tradition. Because of that, you have to create material and content that is suitable for the female-centric idea. Now, this is where what I feel is they could have been, even if it's a female-centric thing, we could have culled a lot from the theatrical librettos, which unfortunately we didn't. So today what is happening, on the whole, if we observe, what is happening is literally all the Southern Indian dance forms are dancing the same pieces. Content is becoming very generic. Everybody dances the Tillana, everybody dances the Jatiswaram, everybody dances Jayadeva, everybody dances Kshetraya. Most of them dance. Everybody is dancing Vagyakara literature. And okay, Vagyakara literature, at least, Jayadeva was danced from the 12th, 13th century. It's meant for dance also. But the stotra literature, or this kind of literature actually is not meant for dancing. So most of what we are dancing is literature that is not meant for dance. And that literature which is meant for dance, we are not dancing it.
And there is a lot of it. There is a lot of it.
And
that
there
we're
is
not.
there is a lot of it. There is a lot of it. See, when you do stotra literature, you have to be also, it's not actually, it's mantra, it's sounds, it's a vibration. So what is happening when we do stotra literature is we become translators of the idea. That's it.
Yes.
You take a stotram, you translate it into English. Okay. Similarly, you take a stotram, you translate it into the language of dance.
Mudras.
At least when you take it, we are not even going beyond what, the actual word-to-word idea denotes.
Yes.
And when you take Dikshitar or when you take any of these poets, which is fantastic literature, but actually not meant for dance.
It is not. It is not.
It's actually not meant to be danced. So the only thing, it concerns me that, it's becoming so generic that
It's all
everybody
the
is dancing
same.
the same
It's
thing.
it's all become the same thing. It's just that we see it being done in Mohiniyattam vocabulary or
There's a
Kuchipudi vocabulary
technique
or
is,
Bharatanatyam. Different.
it's just the technique
Yes.
is differing.
Yes.
But the content is becoming a blanket content,
Yes.
everywhere, which was not at all so. Because as I said, now it's a danger that's anticipated because, the context we don't have anymore.
Yes.
We are just dancing like that, on a stage or somewhere without any
Yes.
context at all. So there is no context to set the tone for us.
To
So
define
therefore,
what-
it's becoming more to define what you should dance where.
Yes.
So the context is disappeared. But to some extent, I think, considering, especially since we're talking about Kuchipudi, considering that its basis, its root, its entire life is actually theatre. Its life is a theatrical tradition. So I think we have to make some attempt to see that some of these theatrical components are retained in the solo traditions also. And I think that's very essential. For that, we need to start understanding literature as an idea. We have to look, what is a Dvipada? How do you do it? What is it? What was the speciality of what Kuchipudi people did with the Kanda Padyam? You take a Kanda Padyam, which is a format, a proper chandas, and then you bring rhythm into the last part of it, and it becomes a Kandartham. This is very special to these Bhagavata formats only.
And
so, we have to dance more of these.
We have to look for them. Where do we look for them? Where?
So I think if we really want to find them, we can find it.
Will the universe bring it to us?
The universe should bring it to us. So, either we go to the older practitioners of the style, or, if you think all Telugu literature is open for me as an arena to dance, then you can go to, places like Saraswati Mahal, Tanjavur, where so many of these Yakshaganams are in printed format. In Andhra, it's in our Telugu, I will not say Andhra Telangana, but in the Telugu land itself, you have the AP Government Oriental Manuscripts Library, you have the, Kakinada, you have the Gautami Granthalaya, you have Rajamundry Rajamundry GOML. So there are many places where, it's available, and I'm not simply talking out of my hat, because I did a project for Sangeet Natak Academy based only on Salam Daru and Shabdams. And I got loads of material on it in these places. So it's very interesting because we are looking at things only from one context. So even if you want to say that, okay, Shabdams and Salam Darus are court literature, I will not 100% agree with that also, because Shabdams were also found as the opening pieces of Yakshaganams.
Which is exactly where Ramayana Shabdam was done also in Ramanatakam, right? Even in Kuchipudi.
What about Prahlada Pattabhisheka Shabdam?
Shabdam?
It is the opening Shabdam of the Melatur, Venkatrama Shastri's Prahlada Natakam. So the tradition of telling the whole story in Telugu, as we say, katte kotte teche, in the small, in a small summary, they were all, it was there. So it's very much part of the Bhagavata tradition also, the Shabdams. But, Shabdam presentations are becoming lesser and lesser if you see in the solo.
Yes.
System.
And even then we stick to these one or two which are maybe overkill over time and
yes. Yes. So the narrative component we are losing, because we are putting, all footwork and too much movement and, a highly stylized version. So we are losing the narrative element.
Telling the story part of it.
Telling the story as you tell in theatre. So you're losing that,
So what about these other branches like Annamaya and these other things that we've adapted? What are whose works are those that we really need to know of if we are Kuchipudi dancers today? Considering whatever changes have happened in the form, Like,
No, I think we need to know everything which is a Telugu work, according to me.
that's a lot
You
of
know,
work.
that's a lot of work. I mean, Telugu being such a prolific literary language,
Yes.
we need to know everything. You know, because there is so much that you can adapt today if you think carefully, even in the immense bulk of Prabandha literature that happened during the Vijayanagara time.
Mm.
You know, Manucharitra. I've done Saraswati Padyam from Manucharitra. You know, from Amukta Malyada of Krishnadevaraya. You have so many beautiful, you know, Padyams that you can perform from the classical pieces also. And then you have loads of about at least 60 to 70 Yakshaganams are available of Tanjavur, you know, Nayaka kings during the period of the Nayaka kings.
Wow.
You know, even if you simply take a Raghunatha Abhyudayam or a work like that, which is based on Raghunatha Nayaka by his own son, you know, there are so many descriptions, so many aspects. So I think both have to go simultaneously. See, Annamaya's place in this whole thing is very interesting because 1408 to 1503 is his period, and that was the period of the highest classical Prabandha literature that was being written.
Wow.
You know, the song format was not being written except in the Desi traditions.
Wow.
You didn't have the song format. And even in the Desi traditions, it was the Dvipada and the Manjari Dvipada which was more prevalent.
Not this typical Pallavi,
No.
Anupallavi structure that was, no.
Pada Sahityam came into Telugu with Annamacharya. That is why he's called Padakavita Pitamaha. Because the Pallavi and the three Charanams idea came because of him. Anupallavi also was not developed.
It wasn't.
You don't
It's
have
on-
an Anupallavi in Annamacharya. It's only Pallavi and three Charanams.
What about his sons?
Anupallavi-
Have they included Anupallavis?
No, nobody has included Anupallavi in Talapaka literature.
Wow.
It is
Okay.
only post that. It is from the time of, you know, Kshetraya, Sarangapani and others that the Anupallavi came in. See, it's an evolution. Jayadeva's time, there wasn't even though he calls it Ashtapadi and he calls it Pada literature, there was no format of even the Pallavi and the Charanams. He has just one refrain line which he calls the Dhruvam, which is obviously influenced by the Prabandha idea. And that refrain only is the nascent form of what became the Pallavi later.
Later.
So at a time when the, you know, most exquisite Prabandha works were being written, Srinatha was writing, you know, on one side, he wrote Sri Harsha's, you know, Naishadhiyam, he translated into, I mean, he made it Telugu. He was writing Shringara Naishadam. You had the, you know, the Bhima Khandam, the Kashi Khandam, all Bhimeshwara Puranam, all these exotic Prabandha works were being written. In such a time, he just rejected that and he chose to write in Padakavita. So because there was a purpose to the whole thing. He wanted it to penetrate into the common man's mind. Because he was connected to Tirupati, he wanted Vishishtadvaita, Venkateshwara Bhakti, this whole idea of Alamelu Manga and Venkateshwara to get right into the heartland
Of the people. Not like make it like
Of the
a
people.
work that is only available to certain or
No, and he never, see, there's no patron. He never wanted to
Yeah.
accept any patronage. So you don't have the royal courts and this assemblage of, you know, courtiers and scholars and all that. He wanted it to reach the people.
yes.
So that is why he, you know, used that medium, and later all the Talapaka poets used that medium. But he didn't stop there. He gave us the definitions of Sankirtana. That also comes from the Telugu land, mind you. We have to remember that.
Remember and be proud
You know,
of it.
that's he wrote Sankirtana Lakshanam. He said, and then of course his Sanskrit version is not available, but his you know, the Telugu version is available by his son, and then Annamacharya Charitra by his grandson. So in that he clearly tells, and there he tells you about his classical knowledge also, because there's very clearly the verses say that, you know, his padams, or Annamaya's padams as it was called, he calls in them padams and Sankirtanas both. So says they're influenced by, he gives a list of texts.
Wow.
Like he says, Sangeet, for the Prabandham from Sangeeta Ratnakara, something else from something else. So like this, he gives a list.
So he's
And
well
his
aware
wife-
of everything that's existed before him and what's happening around
Yes.
him, but he
They
chose
are all
to
well
create.
aware. Yes. All the poets of that time were all well. I'm sure even those who wrote Desi literature and, other
Knew.
formats also knew everything. And his wife is the first Telugu woman, the first woman poetess of a Yakshagana. It's written more in the Dvipada format, Subhadra Kalyanam.
Hmm.
It's written in the Dvipada format, but she's the first one to have ever written it. So that was something happening simultaneously. And this is, remember, pre-Ashtadiggajas.
Yes. Yes.
It is pre, the period of even Krishnadevaraya. So you can see the two streams were going like that simultaneously.
Parallel. It's all parallel. We need to understand this
It's
like
parallel.
that it's not one after the other, but they all
No, it's-
exist in their own different places and
They
contexts.
all exist in their different zones and contexts, and we need to know about all of it.
All of it to
As
get a full
Kuchipudi
picture.
dancers.
Yes. And also that all these are choices made by these writers, that they choose this form of this genre to write and not being swayed by what is happening around. Maybe they borrow, there's a give and take, but yes, this is so interesting.
No, absolutely. Because when you see, of course, there is a big controversy about, the chicken and the egg controversy happens between, Siddhendra Yogi and Narayana Tirtha. So,
Yes.
T.S. Arapparao Garu says he's first, Rajinikanth Rao Garu says
So
that,
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
No, I'm talking about Telugu literature, so I'm not getting into the conundrum of Siddhendra Yogi and idea. But what I'm trying to say here is that it's like a dominoes effect, So the whole Krishna Bhakti idea, which established in 11th and 12th century, started with Jayadeva, then, with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and others, it percolated into every part of the country. And with the Tirtha traditions, like Narahari Tirtha and all these people, and Narayana Tirtha, obviously, that whole Bhajana Sampradaya, the Bhagavata, the Harikatha tradition percolated into the Kuchipudi Bhagavata traditions also.
Yes.
Which is primarily the reason why, the Tarangam, the Narayana Tirtha, Krishna Lila Tarangini is such an important text for Kuchipudi dancers.
Kuchipudi dancers, yes.
But we've come to a stage where we don't even understand that each song is not a Tarangam.
Yes.
So I think we need to understand this. We need to understand that each chapter was called a Tarangam, and this is it's a literary tradition. Every poet calls his chapter by a different name. Mahabharata is Parva, and Bhagavatam is Skanda, and the Ramayana was Kanda. So similarly, Narayana Tirtha called his chapters Tarangams, the waves in the Tarangini of Krishna Lila. The waves in that. So when we make announcements, we need to be aware that we cannot say this is a Tarangam, that's a Tarangam. We have to say this is an extract from the 11th Tarangam of Krishna Lila Tarangini.
Yes.
So I think for this, see, where does it end? Where does it begin? Where does it end? Because Krishna Karnamrutam, that influenced.
Exactly. That was what I was going to get to.
Now, Bilva Mangala is claimed by everybody. Leela Shuka or Bilva Mangala, as the author of Krishna Karnamrutam, he's claimed by so many people. Some Bengal people claim him, Telugu people claim him, a lot of people claim him. So, but Kasturi Tilakam and things like this found their way right into Kalapams and into Yakshaganams and now also into the solo tradition.
Solo, yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we just need to be aware of literary formats, forms of literature, genres of literature, content of different literary aspects. In totality, we need to be aware of it. only then we can pick. Okay, you can say, today I want to adapt Annamacharya. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm doing Annamacharya all the time. Or I want to do a Kshetraya, or I want to do a Sarangapani. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all Telugu literature. It's all ours. But, there is something called a soul to each dance tradition.
Yeah. Yeah, and also what I feel when I watched people, explore ideas, especially when it's not like a typical item where we are doing a choreography, or even if it's an item and a choreography, the ideas that we put in as dancers, we don't often get it from just that one lyric. We draw from that whole gamut of sensibilities of that culture and that land. So how did you start developing these sensibilities, and how do you use them to enrich or give layers to your dance?
That's actually a very complicated question, because I really don't know where to start.
Basics. This is back to basics.
So,
okay.
So, see, for example, let me just say, let's take somebody like, Chinta Ramanathan Garu. Okay, when he analyzes, the Bhama Kalapam, and he writes ideas, and he says, okay, this aspect of Bhama Kalapam reflects Dashakama Avasthas, or this aspect reflects Ashtavidha Naika Avasthas. Now, to arrive at that, you have to have a background of having, proficiency in the Natashastra, proficiency in texts which are related to the Natashastra, proficiency in your own, tradition of performance. So there are several components that make you arrive at a certain idea, as you said. So I think for me also, it's always been literature that makes me arrive at anything. And then literature looked at in a certain context of the important things that I look in context, for the context, is the period, the ethos, the poet, his philosophy, his leaning, his idea, because we tend to make blanket ideas about everything. So even with biggest scholars also it happens. With some of the greatest scholars, they make blanket statements, because when, Vaishnavism was revived in the Bhakti period, post-Buddhism, a lot of, a kind of a renaissance of Hindu thought happened. This was to see that Buddhism loses its ground, because Buddhism was gaining ground very heavily. Now, in this revised version of Vaishnavism, most of them rejected the Buddhavatara, especially the southern poets. So when we say Anganalaku Siggada Limpaga Angaja Samarupamuto Ranguga Purakantala Vratamulu Bhanga Parishina Bauddhavatara, we are not talking about Gautama Buddha.
Yes.
We are actually talking about the Puranic Buddha, the Buddha that features in the story of the Tripura Samhara.
So we can't do that and then go back to doing this, actually, technically.
So,
can we?
First of all, we have to look for a correct mudra for what defines Purana Buddha.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, what they've done was, because this Ranguga Purakantala Vratamulu didn't fit with the idea of Buddha, they just simply changed it to Krishna. A lot of people made it Krishna Avatara. But even that doesn't fit, right?
Where did Krishna...
Ranguga Purakantala Vratamulu Bhanga Parishina Krishna, Krishna Avatara. I myself heard some groups dancing it as Krishna Avatara. So my point here is that, yes, in South India, especially in Sri Vaishnavism and in Vishishtadvaita and, propounding, if you look at, poets like Vedanta Deshikar and others, they do not acknowledge Gautama Buddha.
At all.
But at all. Because the whole idea was to counter Buddhism. That was what was a revived version of Hinduism for. But we cannot put that as a blanket idea, because then a lot of people argue that Jayadeva's Buddha is also Purana Buddha.
Yes.
But that is not true. Jayadeva talks about Gautama Buddha.
He's very sure that he talks about Gautama Buddha, right? It's very clear.
I am very sure, and he is very sure that he talks about Gautama Buddha, because there is a huge connection there to Buddhist thought. Because Jayadeva himself is supposed to be the Adi Guru of Sahajiya Vaishnava. Sahajiya Vaishnavism is a combination of the Bengal Vaishnavism and Sahajayana Buddhism.
Wow.
It's a combination of these two ideas. So the Buddhist Sahajayana Tantras were, at the time when all the invasions and all that were going on and Buddhism was big time, falling.
Spreading.
Lot of Buddhists merged with the Bengal Vaishnava ideas and they retained their Buddhist tantric practices. And gradually over a period of time, they absorbed Buddha into the Dashavatara pantheon. And Jayadeva and Chandidas are supposed to be the Adi Gurus of Sahajiya Vaishnava. So what is applicable? Both are Vaishnava. This thought is also Vaishnava, that thought is also Vaishnava. But this blanket terminology of, because it's Vaishnava, they have to be against Buddha, we can't apply that.
That doesn't.
So we have to be careful. We have to be very careful.
Of the context, especially of the context of what
context, content, what is happening, is it making sense? Like I'll be very bold today and I'll say about the Krishna Shabdam also.
Yes, please say it.
No, I'm just saying that what we are calling the Krishna Shabdam is not really the Krishna Shabdam. It's for a king. It's for a king, and when you look at a simple line, see, we have to be sensitized to this.
Yes.
Kavijana Poshaka Mandara. Why will Krishna be sitting and, patronizing the Kavijana?
Kavijanas, yes. So,
Kavijana Poshaka Mandara is definite, yeah.
This technical thing here. So, who is that king we will talk about? Hello. Yes. So who is Krishna of Krishna Sabdam?
So this is actually originally, it's called Damerla Timmendra Kumara. So it says Swami Rara Damerla Timmendra Kumara. Now as per, I'm not saying this, as per, Rajnikanta Rao Garu, and I can quote Arudra Garu and several scholars. Now, when we look at Damerla Timmendra Kumara, it's actually a reference to the son of the ruler of Kalahasti at that time. So that is why some people attribute this Shabdam actually to Munipala Subramanya Kavi, who is the author of the Adhyatma Ramayana. Adhyatma Ramayana is another work which we do in
Which we should, yes, and we should
and we should explore it even further. Yes. We should even explore it further. So this is supposed to be in praise of the son of that. So Damerla was that period of the time when, Damerla was the dynasty at that time. And you also have, which, mentioned by some of the scholars, that in the Madras Oriental, Research Library, you have what is Damerla Padamulu, which are also considered to be written by Munipala Subramanya Kavi. So, a lot of these things have changed. A lot of these methodologies have changed. Now, one thing we must understand that in Indian thought, we don't have all this concept of, nothing should be changed. This is, what is that word?
Sacrosanct.
No, we have one word. I'm not getting that word actually. What is it called? Plagiarized. Or, there is, we are supposed to have
copyright.
Some kind of a copyright.
Yes.
Copyright idea. This is not there in our traditions, because freely they changed literature, they changed mudras, they changed things to suit the particular circumstances and situations at that point of time. And even in major texts also, there have been interpolations. And it is also a way of extending literary tradition also. Like, the very famous, even in Jayadeva, as early as the 12th century, 13th century also you have this whole discussion, because the opening shlokas, everything goes in a certain pattern, and then there is suddenly the shloka in the middle. Before the Pralayapayodhi Jale happens, there's a shloka which talks about 4 poets in the court of Lakshmana Sena.
Oh.
And Jayadeva is mentioning 4 poets who are all supposed to be his co-poets at the time of Lakshmana Sena. Now, there are many scholars who have even disproved that Jayadeva didn't belong to the court of Lakshmana Sena at all.
Wow.
So, there are, we must understand that there are a lot of regional components. Now, in the fight between Orissa and Bengal, claiming
Yes.
Jayadeva, this could have been an interpolation also. We cannot say, we cannot refute, or we cannot strike that idea away. So rather than saying that these are,
changes. What I understand is we should not look down upon these changes that have been made at a certain time from today's point of view of our, the importance that we give to authenticity, and this is the original, and this is the, this is the first work. We shouldn't look down upon the changes that have happened over a period, and we should accept it as it is, because
We
they
have to
were
accept
artists,
it.
right? It's not a chemical formula.
And it's not just that. It is one composite tradition, and our tradition is unbroken from centuries. What was oral tradition or our written traditions or anything? This is one tradition. The entire Indian literary tradition is an unbroken chain. It still goes on till today.
Yes.
It's just going, we add, and then every text has several commentaries. So many people talk about it. There are interpolations. There are so many things that we don't have this concept of, this is my work, this is your work. And if we talk about exchanges, I'll tell you, so there are so many instances. We did a master's thesis on Chindu Bhagavatam. And we found one padyam in that, which we were trying to decode, and we, spoke to a scholar about it. And he said, this padyam is Srinadha's padyam. This is from his work. We were thinking it's the, exclusive libretto of the Chindu Bhagavatam artist.
Yes.
But that scholar said, this is not there. This is, Srinadha's poem.
Yes. Wow.
So it only goes to show that they will take whatever they require.
Yeah.
In the Telugu Devadasi tradition also, you have, they sing the prayer to Saraswati in the beginning. That is from Manu Charitra of Alasani Padana. So they'll sing that prayer. Then they will take in between the Parijatams, they'll take so many slokas from Krishna Karnamritam. Haven't our Bhagavata traditions in Kuchipudi also adapted slokas from Krishna Karnamritam?
Yeah.
So this give and take is very natural in different traditions which have arisen and which are flourishing in the same cultural ethos. So this whole fight of, you have taken from us, we have taken from you,
That never existed until
actually
recently, maybe.
it is all now in our restricted petty minds now. We're calling this is yours, this is mine. But there was always this, exchange, especially in artistic communities.
Exactly. And I think where it's more free flowing, like Kuchipudi especially, which is every day they're changing their performance, right? Every day it's a different thing. Even today, if you watch performances of hereditary artists, the same Bhama Kalapam done today, they will not do tomorrow. The dialogues are different. The Vachikavinam is different. The patterns, Aduku patterns are different. So especially when such flexibility is there within the way an art form functions. So when we research, especially, we see, ఇది ఇక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చింది, ఇది అక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చింది. We start becoming slightly judgmental about these things. We call it prakshiptalu in Telugu, about things being brought in from other places. But actually, that is the beauty of it. We need to relook at it like that. That That's
No,
the
we have
beauty
to
of this
relook
culture.
relook at the whole thing as one composite tradition
Tradition.
of a certain indigenous land.
That's it.
Only if we are able to look at it like that, only then we will understand that, there is continuous interaction. Now, nobody in the Ata Bhagavatam will think that, oh, the classical literature, so I will not include that in my work.
And Ankoru.
It would never have been, they would never think like that. So, they will cull and take and explore everything that, they know of at that point of time. And a lot of the Bhagavatam has actually been inspired by the Harikatha traditions, which is very obvious in the way the musical formats are. It is inspired by the Bhajana Sampradaya, as very clearly seen in Krishna Leela Tarangini. So when you see, I had this event where a person from one of the 100 families to whom Narayana Tirtha is supposed to have taught directly. So he came and he sang the Krishna Leela Tarangini exactly how, it's called the Panjara style of singing.
Yeah. I've been there. And actually I was amazed to see how close that musicality was to Kuchipudi's musicality. I was amazed.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because it is taken from the Bhagavata traditions, all have the same root. They have the same base.
Yeah.
If you look at the way he sang Bala Gopala, or if you look at the way he sang any of this, Krishnam Kalaya Sakhi Sundaram.
Yes.
It's exactly the same.
The same.
The way we singing it.
Yeah. Now that we've discussed so much about the literature part of it, what about the poets? Like who we call Vagekaras also. Like in Telugu, what were these people called? Were they called Rachayitalu or what? Rachayitalu is a recent
the
word.
The word Vagekara was universal. Everyone who wrote Vak and made it into a song
is a Vagekara.
Is a Vagekara.
So someone who wrote a Prabandha, what would he be known as?
So they were all called Kavis actually.
Kavis, only Kavis.
Like Nannaya was called a Kavitrayam. They are called the Kavitrayam. So they are all poets. They're all poets. Ashtadiggajs are all poets.
Kavi. Everyone is Kavi. Whatever form of literature.
Anyone who makes a Kavya, and Kavya was it's not a separate jana. Anything that is a creation, a poetic creation was called a Kavya. And in fact, the Prabandha is very special to the Telugu land. Prabandha in literary format is very special to the Telugu land. It came with this whole thing came with the Vijayanagara Empire, that period. And, that developed special characteristics. You have 18 characteristics that must be there in a Prabandha. A Telugu Prabandha. This doesn't apply to Sanskrit.
Acha.
It's specific to Telugu literature. There are other rules which apply to the Kavyas and Itihasas of Sanskrit. But in Telugu, you have if you want, I can tell you what they are also. If you are interested.
Please do.
Some of them.
Yes.
What the a Telugu work, a complex Telugu work, which is called a Prabandha, what are the features that it must have? So, this must have, just give me 1 second.
Sure. Please.
I'm just trying to find that. So, there are, 18 features that it must have. Like, it must have a Pura Varnana, description of towns and cities. It must have Samudra Varnana, descriptions of seas, oceans, water bodies. It must have Parvata Varnana, mountains. It must have Ritu Varnana, seasons. It must have Suryodaya descriptions, Suryasta descriptions. It must have, description of moonrise, Chandrodaya. It must have Jalakrida, water sports. It must have Udyanavana descriptions, going for strolls in gardens. It must have Madhyapana, drinking.
Yeah.
It must have Rati, love in all its facets. It must have Putrodayam, description of lineages, Vamsha and things like that. It must have Vivaha, marriage. You know, it must have niti. It must have politics. You can have Rajaniti, Samajika Niti, Chora Niti. That is also
Wow.
part of, you know, many of the ideas. It must have yatras, travels. It must have yuddham, wars. It must have dyutam, which is gambling, challenges, Rajavamsha, you know, kings. So these are specific to Telugu Prabandha literature.
This is a full-fledged Rajamouli movie, you know. It's like one of those
Complete.
everything
Exactly.
being there. It is
So if
like
you
that.
see Amukta Malyada, or you look at, you know, any of these Manu Charitra or anything, they'll have all these components.
All of them, yeah.
Without them, it did not qualify to be a Prabandha.
Qualified. Mm.
So these are special features
So
of the
rich.
Telugu Prabandha.
So rich, so rich, so rich.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are umpteen elements that we can take, and I think we should take from them.
So when we take a Prabandha, do you think we'll have to do it like from the beginning to the end, or we can edit?
I don't
How?
think in today's context that even makes sense. You know,
It
because the Prabandha has so many aspects, and some of them really cannot be danced.
It can't.
You know, because it's very difficult to adapt them because they are not performance librettos.
They're not.
Basically, they are literary works to be, their classical literature to be enjoyed for their lyrical beauty, for their beauty of language. So I think here and there extracts are also very important for us to keep this traditions alive also.
Yes.
I think that's also a reason why, you know, a lot of the Ata Bhagavatam traditions took them as Mangalacharanams. You know, they get to keep these traditions alive also.
Like,
so
for instance,
because it's a Telugu padyam, like see, in the Golakalapam presentations of Telugu Devadasis, they used to recite the Saraswati Shlokam. You know, they'll say, Cher Chukkaga Yunna Chinni Jabilliche. You know, so it's a beautiful Mangalacharanam Shlokam on Saraswati from Manu Charitra. So there is a section of 4 or 5 exquisite padyams in Manu Charitra. Each of them are danceable. I've actually danced this Saraswati Padyam. So you have the Ganapati. The Ganapati Padyam is as beautiful. You know, the descriptions are so unique. So we can identify, you know, special pieces like this to keep the Telugu Prabandha Kavya alive also.
Alive.
In the minds of Telugu people. See, because today, you know, when we are divorced from context,
Yes.
then, you know, how many people will take up a Prabandha and sit and read it? Nobody will do it.
Nobody will. And also
Very
what
few.
I find, very few. What I find is like when I see, you know, some dancers saying, you know, this is from for instance, a lot of Bharatanatyam dancers, I adore them for doing that they take some 2nd century, you know, one verse from somewhere and they elaborate it so beautifully. And the imageries come forth through that, right? Not just the words. It's not just that particular verse. So when I see those things, I'm always thinking, what do we have? Like, where do we look for our own stuff? our own material.
I will reverse that question and say, what is it that we don't have in Telugu literature?
Exactly.
You know, you want Ramayanas, you want Mahabharatas, you want Bhagavatams, everything is available in Telugu. There is nothing that is not available in Telugu literature.
It's just that we're not
Kavya,
looking.
Prabandha, Nataka, it's just that we are not looking in spite of having translations today.
So where do we buy these? Where do we get these?
If we are the urban English educated youngsters, I'm not youngster, but whatever. I mean,
No.
If we are that generation of people who are most comfortable in English, like me and you, you know, you need to go to Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for translations. So many of them are available.
Wow.
You know, you have the Murthy classics. People like David Shulman, people like A.K. Ramanujam, people like Velcher Narayan Rao, they have translated number of works. Today, you have Shishupala Vadha.
I hope people are noting these names down. Yes.
A.K. Ramanujam, David Shulman, Velcher Narayan Rao. You have Annamacharya has been translated in English by them. You know, they've
Wow.
also, the book is called The God on the Hill. And
Yes,
for
yes.
people who don't know Telugu, you can also enjoy, and lot of these translations have the original text. God on the Hill doesn't have it, but you know, the Manu Charitra translation, the you know, the Magha, the Shishupala Vadha, all these original translations, texts
Are
with English
there,
translations
are
are
there.
available.
Beautiful.
They're available. Lot of these works are available. And as I told you, so many of printed Yakshaganams are there in all these manuscripts libraries. So there is one thing again which I will make myself very unpopular by saying is that in Kuchipudi we also have one more problem, is that we must try to find ancient literature and balance it with new literature. You know, that's very important for us. The concept of getting something conveniently written, customized for ourselves, and then, you know, doing only that without culling literary, you know, treasure houses which are lying there unopened.
I know.
So I totally understand that if there is a certain kind of a character you want to portray or a certain idea which you want to do, and you're not finding that anywhere,
Yes.
you know, then you get that written or something.
Yeah.
But I think it is very important that we balance this.
Yes. You know, if
have the
someone
Bhamakalapam text there, sitting there with Panchachamarams and Dvipadas, you're not doing that.
doing it, yes,
But you're
yes.
getting something written by somebody and you'll prefer doing that. So why aren't we exploring it in, at least in a balance?
Yes. So when people
No,
look for like new productions, you know, I want to do a new production and they're not really sure of I want to work on this particular, they may as well go here. They may as well draw from these
Exactly.
Telugu pieces and, you know, cull them out, and like them, we can also add and take from different sources and put it together and make it
I think
whatever
that
speaks
is
to
very,
us.
we are losing that knack of doing that.
Exactly.
I think it's very important that that is to be done. We have to do that. You have to learn how to cull literature from various sources. And if somebody gives me an excuse and says, I don't know where it's available, if you really want it, you'll find it.
Yes.
There was a long period where we also didn't know where it was available.
Yes.
Nobody really told us where it was available.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to look, you have to search, you have to find.
Yes.
And you have to be interested in doing so.
And the research part, the research part of going and finding and getting those things.
See, because unlike what people believe, research enhances performance. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't take away from the performance aspect. They think if you spend time researching, then you're losing
dancing. You're not dancing anymore.
You're not dancing anymore, or you're not a cutting edge dancing, body anymore, which is not true. There are people who have balanced it.
Yes.
There are people, Sapna Sundari, for example, my teacher in Vilasinatyam, she is the only one who did this Dvipada. The Manmada Dushana, this Panchachamaram which I recited. So you can, incorporate so many of these ideas if you want to. And, I think it's very essential at this point of time that while you want to get something written for yourself, customized, that's absolutely fine. But I think it should be balanced with
something that
material,
is there. Material
which is already there, and you must search and you must pull out and you must do. I think every solo Kuchipudi dancer must include, some theatrical component in her performance, like a Kandartham, like a Dvipada, like a Daruvu, like, any of these meters. Because they bring out the beauty of Telugu Sahitya, of Telugu literature, Telugu, rhythm, the way the whole language moves and dances. This brings it out.
It's so sad that the language that was considered most suitable to be written in art, that was the language for performing, as now we are not, really, even in a
Yes.
very, very business sense, we are not encashing upon the beauty that is there within it, we are not, we are just going,
Yes.
passing by it. Very true, very
No,
true.
I think it's very important. We have to concentrate on, we have to have special oriented. See, the amount of time we spent on practice, on technique, on learning certain items or learning the Adavasamu or, any of this. I think an equal amount of time we have to spend in understanding literature of the Telugu people and what is most suitable for us to adapt into a Telugu dance form. I think that's very important. We have to give the appreciation of literature.
Yes, yes.
I think that you have to have youngsters being thrilled
About
when
finding those
when,
pieces.
and about when you hear a piece like that,
Wow,
you have to be thrilled by the idea.
Yes.
You have to be thrilled by the idea. You have to be thrilled by the metaphor. You have to be thrilled by that image. You have to be thrilled by that simile. Only then it works, because a simple dialogue between Satyabhama and her Sakhi, because she's in Viraha, if the Sakhi says, Chandrodam ayindi akada. So then Satyabhama says, I think adi badavana lambu. I think it's, a fire and, there's smoke. How much they have played with imagery. My concern is, are we losing that finer quality to be able to appreciate the imagery of our own language? And if so, then we have to save that.
Yes.
We have to save that whole context. Absolutely. It's not simply dancing the line as soon as you hear it. You have to think about the line, and you have to find lines which are similar in so many other works.
Exactly, which is what I find in the way you explore ideas. They are your ideas, but they're being fueled by a lot of these other inputs, by those sensibilities, by the various colors, the different things come together to give you that idea and for you to make it your own, and then you make it your own, which is exactly
I totally accept it. I know, see, there are many dancers who are extremely spontaneous. They are geniuses. They will just go and they will, dance to a piece of literature just like that. I'm not one of them.
Really?
I can never dance a piece unless I've thought about it. So it may be defined as, intellectualizing an idea or intellectualizing a piece or taking away from the beauty of the piece because you intellectualize it too much.
Isn't it internalizing it? It's more internalizing.
But each one has their own methodology, I feel.
Way of doing it. Yeah.
So I would never be comfortable dancing a piece just like that spontaneously until I've kind of, soaked in that literature for some time, and until I've explored all the aspects of that literature.
Yes.
So I think this is not connected to, which form of dance you're doing.
No.
It's not, because if you see, within the Kalapam format, within the Yakshaganam format, so for example, within the Kalapam format, if you see Vedantam Satyanarayana Sharma Garu, it is like a solo event is happening there.
Exactly.
Within the format of the Kalapam, if you see him, the multiple ideas, the multiple, emotions, the multiple, interpretations that he brings to the whole thing as he does the same character over and over and over again. At that point of time, the thought is not in your mind, is this drama tradition, is this solo tradition? This is not the thought in your mind.
Yes.
The thought in your mind at that point of time is, this is fabulous literature and it's being interpreted so fabulously.
So beautifully. Absolutely.
I think that is the main purpose. Since our whole conversation is about literature.
Yes.
I think it's very important for us to appreciate and understand that literature, and even if we don't understand it, make an effort, go to somebody and learn it and understand
it. I know. Eventually we'll start understanding parts of it, right? When we do. Now,
exactly.
We will do that. Yeah. So this quickly, who are the poets that we need to know about? when I say poets, I don't mean Kavi. These words are very confusing when we do it in English and Telugu. I'm talking about people like Kshetraya, who have written in
Yes.
Telugu, who are the ones that we need to look for, other than just, Kshetraya that we generally look for. Who are the other
Right.
poets? Very quickly, for just,
So, see, for me, this is like it's not just connected to the Telugu idea. For me, it's extremely generic, the whole thing, because we have always done Sanskrit also. In Kuchipudi, we dance Sanskrit and we dance Telugu.
Yes.
So I think every poet of the Vagyakara, of the Bhakti era, is equally important for us, not just the writers of single pieces, but writers of complete composite works also. In that, I would say, Jayadeva's Gita Govindam, Narayana Tirtha's Krishna Leela Tarangini, Munipala Subramanya Kavi's Adhyatma Ramayana, Krishna Karnamrutam of Leela Shuka. These are all important works for us. Individual poets, Annamacharya, the entire pantheon of Talapaka poets, Kshetraya, Sarangapani, Sabhapataya, and there are, you have, in fact, Samsthana literature is there. So if you go and see, if you search for books, if you can read Telugu and you can read English, then, you have books which give you the poets of the Venkatagiri Samsthanam. Or you have books that give you the poets of a certain Samsthana. So this is how you even realize things like, for example, Indendu Vachitivira Aladani Illu I Veedi Kaadu Popora. We think it is a Kshetraya Padam.
It's not.
It's not. It's a Kasturi Ranga Padam. So because there are people who have written about it. And in the sequence of Kasturi Ranga Padams, this is one of the Padams, and there are many more Charanas than what we do. Then you have the vast list of the Javali composers.
Yes.
Now, there are books in Telugu, and even recently, a few years back also, an entire collection of Javalis has been brought out, in which you have Javalis by the Telugu poets of the Telugu regions, Telugu poets of the Tamil regions. Like if you look at, Ramnath Srinivas Iyengar, or you look at Dharmapuri, Venkata Subbayar, and all these people, their Telugu Javalis are there. Dasu Sri Ramulu, and all the people who wrote, in Totlavalluri Venugopala and those kind of mudras, which belong to the Telugu land, and they are Telugu poets. Those Javalis are also available. So we have a wide range of, ideas to look for. Now, somebody like Umanti, for example, she went and she worked on Shahaji's Yakshaganams.
Yes, yes.
So other than Shahaji, you have so many. You have Giriraja Kavis, you have Vijayaraghava Nayakas, you have so many Ranga Jammas are there. There are so many Yakshaganas. I myself have a collection of 3-4 books. Then you have the Kuravanji Natakams. Okay, even if you don't want, but the ideas repeat.
Yes.
If you have a Singi Singadu, a tribal character of fortune tellers coming in Prahlada Natakam, you have Singi Singadu in
Kuravanji.
the Shahaji's Kuravanji also.
Kuravanji.
Rajagopala Kuravanji. You have the same ideas keep coming everywhere. So the whole, we should stop worrying about, is this, is this, that, is this.
The slotting should...
Kalapam, Yakshaganam, Parijatam, Vidinatakam, all these Bhagavata traditions, format-wise, they're all the same. They all have the same kind of formats. They have Darus, they have Dipadas, they have Padyams, they have, Reku, Ragada, and many formats. Ela Patalu. In fact, the range of songs that we find in the Yakshaganams, if you see, I had made a small note somewhere actually. Balantrapu Rajinikanth Rao Garu gave a wide list of the kind of songs you can actually find in the Yakshagana literature. Like, for example, he says, you have the Jola Pata, you have Suvvali, Harati, Dhavala, Chandamama Patalu, Vennela Patalu, Virali Patalu, Tummeda Patalu, Gobbi Patalu, Kovela Patalu, Chiluka Patalu. Then you have the Sisam, Kandam, Sisardam, Kandartham, Tribangis, the, Chaupadi, Shatpadi, Dvipadi, Manjaris. So Telugu literature is like abounding with all these formats.
So much.
So many formats. So I think it's high time we started exploring all these formats.
Re-looking at all of these things, right?
We have to relook. We don't even know. Annamacharya, we all know. But
Yes.
how many of us know that Annamacharya wrote a book called, a work called Shringara Manjari?
Shringara Manjari, yes.
That is a Manjari Dvipada. Beautiful pieces are there for us to perform from that. Then there is a Chakravala Manjari by his grandson. Then there is a Sudarshana Ragada by Peda Tirumalacharya. Now, when you want to do something on the Chakram or Vishnu or something, you can call from
Why can't
Sudarshana Ragada. It's like a stotra.
Yeah.
And it's a Ragada, so it's a performance format.
Yes.
So there is a lot. It's
We only
unending,
need
it's
to-
endless.
So
It's
this
just
the whole
endless.
point of this discussion was to just give us a view of like a bird's eye view of this, so that we will somehow start looking for these things and start incorporating it in our dance and make it Telugu, make it our own, make our dance
Yes.
with our
For me, it's even more than Telugu. The idea is that to bring in that special or essential quality of a language of an indigenous culture.
yes.
So
Yeah.
that is very important. We have to take pride in that.
In it, exactly.
I think that's very important. See, when you look at Orissa, how much pride they take in Gita Govindam.
Absolutely.
Are we taking the same pride in say, Amukta Malyada?
I know. Forget that. Even Adhyatma Ramana Kirtana, that is part of performance, but it's just like we just hear that it is done. We've probably watched it once or twice in the last couple of decades. Yes. So these are the things.
No, but it's fine. See, great maestros have included, pan-Indian Sanskrit literature. Like we know Vempati Master Garu has included Utukadu, and we also know that, Sadashiva Brahmendra and, these kind of poets who wrote in Sanskrit have also been included into Kuchipudi at different points of time. But,
yes.
but that's the point, you're including, you have to include more and more of existent literature.
Absolutely. And from
So
everywhere.
you can't say
including
that they included it. So that's it. Now I will dance only that for the rest of my life. The idea is to expand on what they've given you while retaining what you have been given, which has been given to you with a lot of thought, because when they did it, they were the pioneers.
Absolutely.
It's been given to you with a lot of thought, but it doesn't mean that you just take that and then you think you're done
Sit
and
with
that's
that.
it. You just sit with that.
Yes.
Don't sit with it. Develop it. Go beyond it.
Lovely.
That's very important.
Lovely. Because this is especially important because today we are all independent dancers dancing, trying to get our own voice. How do we engage with these different things? How do I do something?
Yes.
Like when I want to dance, it's not like okay item kavali and then you just listen to 10 T.M. Krishna's song, what he's sung or someone, and just pick one of them and then add one jati to it. Instead of that, exploring these untapped, at least now they're untapped in this context, modern context, they're untapped. So we should bring them into that.
Even in Prahlada Natakam, you also have a small Tillana extract.
What?
Which is not being danced. It's there in the text.
Oh.
In the text that I have, there is a Tillana. The word Tillana comes in that.
Wow.
So we have to, understand why, how did it come? What is it? What is the context? In Usha Parinayam, you have recensions. You know, you have Chidambara Kavis, and then you have another recension, and then where have they worked on which aspect? You know, so one mammoth task, which of course we all know that, you know, Pasumarthi Ramalik Shastri Garu did was revive Shashirekha Parinayam.
Parinayam, yes.
We all know what he did with that.
Yeah.
And of course, Shastri Garu and they worked on the Shashirekha Parinayam and they revived the whole idea. So there are, out of the big list of 13 or 14 Yakshaganas which we kind of, you know that used to be performed at one point of time, you have about 4 or 5 which are in practice, other than, of course, the Bhama Kalapam and the Gora Kalapam.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be a collective effort, you know, to see what it is. And if you feel, you know, today in the solo context of performance, if you feel complete works are unmanageable, retain some portions or sections from the works at least, you know, which are adaptable to performance. I think that's important.
Very, 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 absolutely. We'll now just open it out to questions for like 5 minutes. I know I've taken so much of your time, but
it's absolutely enjoyable.
Any questions, anyone, please.
I think there are a lot of comments. You can see if any questions are there in that.
Yeah. I think it's mostly join. Comments.
So I can see some comments here, but I think you'll have to look if there are some questions in that.
I don't see questions here. I see.
I saw one question actually in I don't know how you access them, but I don't have any idea of how to access it. So unfortunately, I'm also very technologically impaired human being.
Oh my God. And we both came together to do this. One second, I'm looking through this. I don't know where. Oh, this is the question. Okay. Please explain the history and exact definition of Daruvu.
So, see, these words will not have exact definitions, but a song which occurs in a drama or a theatrical presentation is called a Daruvu. Now, it traces its origins to the Dhruva Gana of Natashastra. Now, Daruvu as a structure, if you want me to formally tell you, you have the Dhruva Gana in the Natashastra, you have the Praveshiki, you have the Adita Dhruva, you have the Avakrishta, you have the Antara, and you have the Naishkramika Dhruvas. This Dhruva only became Daruvu. You know, because let's remember that the Natashastra is not a text on dance, it's a text on Natya. Natya means theatre. So a lot of these theatrical traditions or these theatrical ideas were also incorporated into indigenous dance forms. Now, a song structure within a theatrical work was called a Daruvu, and the same kind of applications that you find in the Dhruva Gana are also found in the Daruvu. Like, if there you have Praveshiki Dhruva, you have Pravesha Daruvu here. You know, so it converted to the Pravesha Daruvu. Then you have the Samvada Daruvu, the discussion. Uttara Pratyuttara Daruvu, where there is, you know, a question and there is an answer. Or there is a ripati. Then you have the Akshepiki Daruvu. Then you have the Prasadhika. So many different types of Daruvus evolved, or the song format. Now, in a Parijatam work or a Yakshaganam work or a Kalapam work or any of these, you know, theatrical performing formats, the song part is the Daruvu. That is that which has the Pallavi and the Charanams. Some of them have Anupallavi, some of them don't have Anupallavis. The other sections of the work will not be in song format. It will be either Dvipada, couplets, or it will be in Padyam format, or it will be any of these other meters which we discussed. You know, if you look at Prahlada or Kalapam, you'll find Panchachamarams, Utsaha Vruttams, and these kind of metrical structures will be there. So when you say song in a theatrical indigenous presentation, that is what is a Daru.
Which does not fall into the metric structure, but it has
Darus have their own metric structure.
but it's different from these other defined metric structures.
It's a song format.
Song.
The others are not song formats. They are verse formats. The others are all verse formats.
Okay.
That's the difference between the two.
Okay. I think that's the question. I've asked all my questions. So, Anupama, thank you so much. You will probably have people asking you, otherwise, where do we look for this? Where do we look for that? Bear with that, and please guide them.
Yeah,
because
I'm always ready to tell. I'm always ready to say where we'll get what, but also we also have to look, hard and look hard at stuff.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you've done over, I don't know, maybe 20 years to 20, 25, whatever years. Yeah, 25 years. BA nunchi kada, since your undergrad.
Actually, since I was in my master's itself is 25 years now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 25 years since.
So more than
So we've been working for several years now, and I think it's an unending journey. There's still so much. Really don't know. So
well, most of us still have to get on to that journey. So I hope this talk will inspire people to start looking back home and looking at things differently.
Yeah,
and start thinking
I really
about
hope
things.
So, because I sometimes feel, I was telling a very good friend of mine once that I feel bad that, when I'm so excited about a piece of literature, I literally can't think of anyone whom I can just pick up a phone and say, hey, listen to this piece, how beautiful it is. And I'm not talking only about Telugu. I've been an ardent, lover of Hindi literature, Braj Bhasha, Avadi, all kinds of literature. So where have we lost that? Where have we lost that fine appreciation of metaphor, fine appreciation of image? Why have we lost that? And I think it's very essential for us to bring it back.
Absolutely. I hope this will somewhere be that spark to ignite a whole fire.
I certainly hope so. Hope so.
Thank you so much. I think this started really well because of you and your passion for this whole branch of knowledge. Thank you so much. And I thank everyone who's come here and been here for like almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours now, yes.
Yeah. So please come back for the other conversations in the same series, because we'll be discussing about everything as candidly and as openly and as well as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katya. Thank you, Lasyakalpa Foundation, Shastri Garu, all of you. Through Lasyakalpa, you've been doing really, great work, I think, in bringing a lot of artists to the, Kuchipudi world also, introducing a lot of different formats. And I think Lasyakalpa has done great work. So kudos to you and to DSV Shastri Garu. And I hope this, this endeavor that you started takes off really well. And I'm absolutely looking forward to the other sessions also.
With speakers like you, it will.
I'm looking forward to Anu ma'am, Kishore Garu, and a lot of wonderful speakers. Yeah. So all the very best for this series.
Thank you so much. We might